Brian Davids, have you accidentally or purposely ever worn a band's t-shirt to their own show?
That is a rule I have never violated because I've been in a band, and as have you. We both know that you're never supposed to wear your own band's t-shirt. You're never supposed to listen to that band that you're going to a show of. You're never supposed to listen to that band on the same day. It's bad luck. So I acknowledge and follow every single one of these particular rules.
That's incredible that even 3,000 miles away from each other, we still abide by those. And I have to admit, though, I'm breaking that rule right now. Because as we are recording this podcast, I am wearing my Schmoes Know t-shirt. And I believe it is the first time that I have done it. My apologies to you and everyone who was in that underground music scene. I forgot that you were in a band. My bad.
See, I thought you were going to say you were wearing a new Schmoeville t-shirt that has not been announced yet. So I thought, oh, he's going to announce something here. But you're wearing Schmoes Know, so that doesn't really count because this isn't the Schmoes Know show. If you were wearing a limited edition Schmoeville After Show t-shirt, then there'd be a problem.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little bit better. And I actually had plans to create, with our logo, a t-shirt. But that logo was designed by Jay Williams, who, by the way, did the latest Schmoedown Rundown graphic as well, if you've noticed on their brand new thumbnail. Jay didn't want to ask to be paid. He just simply asked, and I agreed because I'm a part of this. We just wanted a sight and sound plug on the live show, and then we were going to give the logo to him to use at TeePublic, and it's never happened yet. So we're just waiting on Boy Harloff to help us out. We'll hand you the design after that happens. But yeah, there is plans. I could maybe design a graphic for a t-shirt. I could work on that in my spare time since I'm on vacation this week.
And if you define being in a band as being signed to a major label after 6 months of existence, then yes, I was in a band.
You set yourself up and then had one of the most braggadocious
Thanks, MySpace.
anecdotes.
Thank you,
period.
MySpace. Thanks, Tom.
I said months ago on this show that I felt like I had a lot in common because I think Copster played music at one point. It was during their 2006 slideshow. I saw a picture. I think that's when I saw it, of Copster with a bass around his head. Do
you realize that you've said that you've had something in common with at least every person on the Schmoes Know cast by now?
I don't think that's true. I don't think I actually have...
I feel like Makuga and I have the most in common amongst the Schmoes Know. You said that exact quote.
I don't think I have anything in common with Brett Sheridan.
Kristian and I, we just have so much in common. I mean, he's taught me so much about life. Mark Ellis, I mean, that bit that we did, it just felt like we were brothers.
Welcome to the Schmoeville After Show, your favorite after show for everything Collider Video and Schmoes Know. That was a little JFK, but I'm actually Ryan Snelling.
And I'm Brian Davids, and I spend a great deal of time alone in my room contemplating why the pride of Pismo, Ken Knapsack, left his hometown.
Sounds like I don't have anything to say after that. I always feel obligated to say something clever after you've done your little thing, and I just don't have one this week. But I will say that my time hop put a smile on my face today. Mark Ellis, I know you're listening because you're the new brand ambassador on the live show for what we do here on the Schmoeville After Show. Yesterday was the friendaversary of me and merely Mark Ellis. It was a year ago that I met him for the first time, saw him do his act. I've spoken about it several times, but it was just a nice memory. could not be happier that I'm still doing something like this, doing this show for him, for you, Mark Ellis. I do this for you. Yeah, for me. I don't do this for me. I do this for you and the fans. But yeah, I'm glad that I'm still here on the Schmoeville after show. So
I still have that. Yeah. I still have that image of that employee of that comedy club. Was it Improv Comedy Club?
No, that one was Zany's?
Well, whatever comedy club it was, I still have that image of an employee of that club who was just trying to enjoy his cigarette during his 10-minute break. And there you are doing this ridiculous bit with Mark Ellis, and he just has no idea what the heck is happening because he's just trying to have a break. So watch that video, people, and check out the guy just trying to enjoy his 10-minute break.
Yeah, if you didn't know, that video is up on the SK Podcast channel. You can just search Ryan Snelling, honorary Schmo. But that was actually the second time that I met Ellis. The first time was actually in Nashville, and he was a guest on Film Beef. And if you listen to the show, you can probably hear my nerves ringing inside of my stomach. I mean, I was so nervous. I didn't know exactly what we were going to talk about. I mean, he was this was back when Mark Ellis was a celebrity to me. So I think it's a bad episode. I refuse to go back and listen to it, but it's up if anybody is curious. What was funny is that this was right after he gave 13 Hours 5 stars. Huh. And me and my co-host Phil were just baffled that he would do something like that. So, but anyway, it's fun to think about that, and I'm very appreciative. But anyway,
do you DM Mark Ellis?
Are you asking like are you asking if I talk to Mark Ellis, or are you asking how I talk to Mark Ellis?
Both.
I do from time to time. We tell each other Merry Christmas and Happy Thanksgiving, and every now and then this guy, I wasn't gonna bring this up, but this says a lot about him. I don't know how he found out. I hope that he listens to the show. He texted me on his own merit and was asking me about my car situation. And this was before he mentioned it on the live show. But he texted me to basically ask me how my life was going because he heard that my car had broken down. And I just thought that was very sweet of him. He did that on his own. I was very appreciative. But yeah, we text every now and then. So,
huh.
I love that guy.
Interesting.
We have a lot in common, me and Mark Ellis.
Apparently so.
Why, do you talk to Mark Ellis?
No, I've never talked to Mark Ellis outside of this program. Not that I talk to him within this program, but I have never once talked to Mark Ellis. Well, maybe a brief exchange on Facebook or something, but for some reason, I guess I don't do enough work on this podcast to justify, hey, how's it going here and there? How's your car doing? La-da-da.
Well, I've known him a little bit longer, but that's fine. Look, don't be jealous.
Oh, I'm not jealous.
Don't be jealous.
I'm not jealous.
Let's talk about...
I'm jealous.
Stop. Let's talk about the things that Mark Ellis does for us, starting with Collider content. I want to say
real quick, he did not forget about us this week on the show. I'm very happy that Kristian gave them great instructions to not forget about the Schmoeville after show. So I was fully expecting to be ignored on this week's show. So Kristian's presence is still felt even though he's not on the show. So thank you very much.
How could anybody ignore you, Brian? You literally make it impossible to be ignored.
That's true. That's true.
What I was going to say is that I really actually liked how last week's show went down. You sort of ran down the Collider content and I reacted. It was kind of nice to be on the other side of it for a little bit. And it also just makes it smoother and quicker, and you know that I'm a fan of shorter episodes. So let's do it again. I know you take extensive notes and you're the man for the job. So if you're willing, let's do what we did last week.
I'm so flattered, Snelling. So flattered.
Well, last week was a good show. Well, it was a good show.
Well, Monday Movie Talk. This was Martin Luther King Day, so there was no live show. The entire studio was closed, but John showed up to his office to do kind of a mailbag, but with Wendy on the other end, kind of a Skype session. I got to admit, not my favorite format. I probably would have preferred Campy just to do it alone, just because Wendy didn't really have a defined role. I mean, she was reading some questions perhaps, but I could have done without Wendy and just had John. That's no disrespect to Wendy. I just don't think the show ran well with two people. It just felt like it was sluggish as a result. But all in all, I'm glad that we got something, so I'm certainly appreciative there. Did you get a chance to watch this makeshift show on Monday?
I watched a little bit. I agree with you. I think it's just hard to go from, what movie talk is to just the Google Hangout with the added latency through video chat. And
forgot about that.
It's not purposefully done, but it's just such a downgrade from what they do every week, and I guess we kind of take it for granted because for the most part that show runs pretty smoothly. So it's not commentary on them. I just don't really have an interest in watching it in that way because it's just not the reason why I watch Collider Movie Talk. It no longer is the Sports Center for movies when it's done in that format for me.
For you, to be clear, John's Campea did this once with John's Schnepp back in the day during Mailbag. He had Schnepp call in with this Hangout Skype type thing, and even that didn't work all too well. They didn't really stick with it, so it's nothing against Wendy. It's just a format that doesn't particularly work, even though we got a show, so that's what matters.
If you had told me that it was going to be done that exact same way, but with Kristian and Mark, I don't think that would make me want to watch it anymore. So
fair enough. Well, moving to Tuesday, we had Kristian, Campea, Ellis, and Jeremy. Schnepp disappeared this week, so Kristian was working Tuesday. Normally he's Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Moving forward, they read Disney's response to the CG Leia, Carrie Fisher stuff, and I thought this was important to mention how Disney, quote-unquote, said, "We normally don't respond to speculation from the fans or press." End quote. And they certainly don't shame fans who speculate for fun. So that is me, again, addressing Kristian for taking shots at me, who speculates for fun on this show, and I don't care about the answer. Otherwise, I would ask him directly via a DM. So Disney is proving once again why you do not respond to speculation. Have I made my point clear?
I think it is clear. It's not just you, though. Kristian likes to bust my balls with my own speculation on film. So, look, me and you are not insiders in the movie space. So
that's the point. That's why we're doing this.
Exactly. I think Kristian forgets because he has an advantage that he knows all these people in the industry and they can tell him things about movies. He forgets that we don't know it. So I guess in a way...
No, we're not in their office, so of course we're not going to know whether there's a dress code or not. But the whole fun of this show is to speculate whether there is or not, and there's still plenty of evidence that supports less hat wearing. There is still that trend overall. That's the important thing.
I thought you were talking about our commentary on Rogue One. I didn't know you were talking about Schmoeville stuff.
I'm talking about everything. Everything. But,
take that, Harloff.
Oh, by the way, to update the Dunkirk drama with the extra who's not an extra, someone sent me some photos of the real-life Dunkirk, and this was clearly a shot that Nolan based that big money shot on because it looked just like that shot at the end of his first announcement teaser, and you can see soldiers in this shot smiling. Even though they know they're about to likely die, even though they know they're about to be attacked, they are smirking and smiling. So that's another piece of evidence that supports exactly what I've been saying this entire time, that the reaction of that extra who's not an extra was directed per the narrative.
All right, move on to the next day.
There was an interesting moment where Ellis brought up the new time for the Schmoes Know Show on Tuesday Movie Talk. He said, "See you guys there, or else you're a square." That was clearly directed at Kristian. And then Kristian plugged the Schmoedown announcement that was coming via Heroes. We'll get to it in a minute. This is for the Heroes Superhero News matchup. So Tuesday had a lot of stuff going on. Now moving to Wednesday, John Campea, Jeremy Johns, Ken Knapsack making his return to Movie Talk, and Mark Ellis. Mark Ellis was wearing a Seahawks jersey. I'm guessing he lost a bet to Jeremy. And we haven't talked about this. I hope that you will play this atop the show, but Campea on last weekend's mailbag introed the mailbag by playing a portion of a Hootie and the Blowfish song. Now, Campea says that he lost a bet, yet he would not specify what the bet was, which is weird because typically you always explain what bet you lost. So perhaps it's also Seahawks related, even though the Seahawks are his second favorite team because the Seahawks ultimately lost. Perhaps he was paying somebody back for that. So it's very complicated, but I think Campea enjoyed playing Hootie and the Blowfish. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if John Campea, growing up in Canada, I wouldn't be surprised if he was a fan of Hootie and the Blowfish in the mid-90s. I mean, he played that song like it wasn't the first time he's played it.
Hey, who wasn't a fan of Hootie and the Blowfish in the 90s? I mean, come on.
See, well, that's the thing. Pop music in the 90s, you could tolerate. I cannot tolerate pop music today, but in the 90s, I could tolerate Meredith Brooks or Hootie and the Blowfish or all these groups that I wouldn't buy their records, but I could at least listen to them. Alanis Morissette, stuff like that was at least tolerable.
Sugar Ray? I mean, come on.
They're my neighbors. They live down the streets, or they did growing up at least.
Mark McGrath lives down the street from you?
He grew up in Newport Beach. Went to the same school.
Interesting.
So they talk. Great segue, right? So we move to this idea of. They continue the recasting idea, the recasting discussion. I don't want to jump into that too much, but
no.
I have no idea what people are okay with recasting when they weren't okay with CG Leia. I just think recasting is just as bad, if not worse, because there's only one Leia. So I hate the idea that people are starting to come around to recasting, but I want to make a point, though, about something. People come in with these questions, whether it's mailbag or Twitter questions. Well, they'll say something like, hey, do you know anything about Andy Serkis's new Jungle Book movie? They ask these questions, though, like John and Company has special information that we do not have. People don't seem to realize that their opinions come from the same news that we read every day. They are not getting special news. They are not reporting special news. They get the same stuff that we get, and they are just giving their takes on it. So
they don't provide scoops unless provided by Brian Davids
they are,
from the Anna Faris podcast.
Anna Faris, exactly right. They are not reporting the news. They are reacting to the news. Variety reports the news. THR reports the news. You could go on, but Vulture, you name it. But they are simply reacting. But people sometimes will ask these questions. Not sometimes. It happens rather often where they think John and Company has extra information that we don't have. Hey, have you heard anything about this? Have you heard about that? They haven't. They haven't heard anything that you haven't heard. So simply do a Google search, and whatever is written in Google that is written on the major trade sites, that is what they know. Period.
You might be talking about like 12-year-old kids who haven't quite grasped the industry. That's why I'm a little bit easier on that, but it's at least something to discuss, though, because I want to know if they've heard anything about it, depending on if they have a friend in the studio or if maybe they spoke to someone. Because you know how they talk to... Sometimes they talk to actors.
But they can't report that stuff. They cannot report that stuff because then the internet's going to get a hold of it and say, John Campea heard from a source that this is happening. So that's why they steer clear of that for the most part.
It'll be like the Sasha Wonder Woman thing all over again. Yeah.
Of course, John and Kristian and company, they know people, they hear things, but they can't report these things because they're not in that business. They don't want the aggravation that comes from the news reporting business. They just react to what others put out there. So stop asking questions in relation to things that they know as much as we know about. That they hinted about some apps in development for both Collider and the Schmoedown, so I thought that was worth bringing up. We've heard hints of that before. Now moving to Thursday, Wednesday night, we heard an announcement from Campea that Rapaport would be back in studio. My first reaction was he's going to be a lot tamer this time, and it's not going to be as entertaining as the first go-around. So Thursday Movie Talk rolls around. We got Campea, we got Kristian, we got Jeremy Johns, Rapaport, of course. And Kristian wisely kicked things off with a fuck it. He was the one that got the cursing started. But yeah, overall, Rapaport seemed to have a better handle on the show. He looked like he was trying a bit more. I mean, he was still entertaining this time too, but it wasn't the same magic as the first go-around. What did you think?
Do you think that this was due to the fact that he just understood the construct of movie talk and he was willing to play ball or knew how to play ball the next time around? Or do you think there was a conversation after the last show about how his behavior might reflect the show or how he should behave if he happened to be on another time? How do you think it went down?
I think Campea, Rapaport, and Fernandez all had a conference call, and they probably said, hey, do what you do, but just tone it down a bit. Yeah, part of that is knowing what the show is. He probably had no idea what Collider Movie Talk was the first time he did it. His buddy Mark Fernandez simply said, hey, I want you to go do a favor for me. But, of course, John Schnepp wasn't on this episode, so I feel like John Schnepp brought out the best in Michael Rapaport, but John Schnepp was walking the earth like Kane and Kung Fu this week, so we did not get the reunion between Schnepp and Rapaport, unfortunately. But they talked a lot about the Logan trailer number 2. It drove me nuts that Campea missed the point of the X-Men comic book in the trailer. Completely misunderstood the point of all this, as have other people, but it drove me nuts that he couldn't figure out what the purpose of this was. But Rapaport picked up on why Logan was special. He recognized that it wasn't your typical comic book film. That's why everybody's excited about it. And I don't know. It just I like when they bring in guests for this very reason. And it's disappointing, though, that Cody Miller was in town and they couldn't bring him on. I like seeing Cody in that environment. But when you have to choose between Rapaport and Cody, you got to go Rapaport, even though we have no idea if Cody was even available. But
Did you happen to notice, was Jeremy Johns on the first Rapaport episode?
He was, yes.
Okay. For some reason, I forgot that he was. So every time he referenced the last time that Rapaport was on with them, it's like, why are you acting like you were on the show? That's my mistake, obviously. But another thing that Jeremy kind of did that was irritating me was he would, anytime it went to Rapaport, Jeremy would intervene with some kind of anecdote or make a joke about Rapaport before he could even talk. It was like he was sort of trying to steal the spotlight in a way. And he did
Pissing contest.
I don't know. It was just kind of annoying to me. And I think that was part of the reason why Rapaport wasn't the same on this episode. But I wanted to answer my original question real quick. That I don't think Campea said a word to Rapaport. I don't think he was probably scared or didn't want to even touch that with a 10-foot pole after Rapaport's last appearance. I'm not saying Fernandez probably didn't say, hey, well, this show is actually this, but I don't think Campea said a word to him. I think
you didn't notice any direct exchanges on the air between them? Is that what you're saying? Or off the air?
No, I'm saying off the air.
Oh, okay.
After Rapaport's appearance, I don't think Campea corrected his behavior in any way. I think he was just going to let it go because he was probably there because of Fernandez, and Campea was not going to be the middleman. I don't think Campea touched him because I think Rapaport did it on his own. He understood the construct of the show a little bit better, so I think it was on his own merit that he behaved a little bit better. But there was also some slippage, and I know I was scared to death. I'm sure that you were scared to death, and I know everyone at that table was sweating bullets when Rapaport brought up the Wachowskis. The air left the room, and I was waiting for this episode to explode in front of all of our faces. And it did not go the direction I was expecting. I thought it was going to get a lot worse, but he saved himself. And I am so thankful because that could have been a horrendous moment. Oh, my God.
I didn't realize that both siblings were undergoing the transformation. I knew that Lana had. I did not know that the other sibling was too, but the same could be said of the Natasha 50 Shades of Darker Gray. That was a moment between Rapaport and Natasha that could have gone a completely inappropriate place. It didn't, but all in all, I can see him. Let me ask you. I'll ask you. I won't say it. Do you see Rapaport ever coming back on the show?
Oh, definitely, without a doubt.
Well, again, I think John Schnepp, though. I think his absence was the key here because Rapaport dug into him the most, and they were able to kind of riff back and forth the most last time he was on. So maybe he missed his presence while he was walking the earth like Kane in Kung Fu, but I don't know. I feel like maybe he hadn't had his coffee. I don't know what the deal was, but I like that he was back on. Of course, it was on another Thursday like last time. All right, what's next?
I thought that Rapaport picked on Kristian a little bit, just calling him out for not being the guy that knows all about things like Star Wars, and I thought there was a little back and forth between them. I really want Kristian to just get him worked up, and I want Tony Ravioli quality rants from both of those two people. I want their New York stuff to just come out and rage hard. I'm really hoping that happens on his next appearance. So
for me, it sounds like she's speaking Portuguese. For me, that was the one moment that was that stood out. I don't know why. You don't care.
I know you want to move on to Friday movie talk.
All right, what's next? What's next?
Are you skipping Friday movie talk?
No, we got Friday movie talk. For me, I'm calling Friday movie talk for me Friday movie talk. Because this is the episode of Movie Talk that has the most for me's throughout the week. You want to hear something weird?
I'd love to.
So yeah, can you believe the fact that Clark has not seen La La Land yet?
How dare her?
Isn't that crazy?
How dare her? That movie is just delightful. Maybe she hasn't spent enough time with Mance, because if she had, Mance would have driven her to the theater himself and watched it for the 40th time with her.
And she says she's a fan of musicals. It just doesn't make sense. So, bizarre. And there was a big debate about whether Kingsman or Blade Runner, which film would outgross the other, because they both come out the same weekend currently. And I agree with Roca. Again, it's very rare that I agree with Roca, but when I do, I absolutely do. And I think Blade Runner is going to smoke Kingsman because you've got Harrison Ford, you've got Ryan Gosling, Jared Leto, Robin Wright, Mackenzie Davis, Denis Villeneuve, Ridley Scott. You've got all these big names, whereas Kingsman has a lot of British names, great names, but a lot of stars for Britain. So I feel like Blade Runner is going to smoke it as far as these R-rated films go. What do you think?
Oh, I think Kingsman is going to destroy it.
Wow, really?
I do. Yeah, I think.
You want to make a $100 bet on the air right now? Make it official?
Let's make it $100. $50.
$50.
$25.
Fine, deal. All right, it's on record, folks. $25 says that Blade Runner will outgross Kingsman on opening weekend.
Okay, opening weekend box office gross, right?
Opening weekend box office gross, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Post estimates, not estimates, the official recorded number. Obviously, if the release dates change, the bet is void. Are you ready for TV talk?
I'm always ready for TV talk.
All right, what's next? So, TV Talk was pre-recorded due to Martin Luther King Day. The studio was closed, unless you're John Campea. But I like the fact that Josh and company care about their fans enough to pre-record a show for us. That is why it's our favorite show on this channel. And given the TV universe, given how busy it is right now with peak TV, it's important that we remain current on our shows, but also with the people who talk about our shows right now, such as Taboo. So they would have been behind like 2 episodes of Taboo had they not done this episode. So much respect to Makuga, SPR, Griffin, and Sinead.
I think Collider in general has done a much better job taping shows. I think this winter break had a lot more content than last year's. The way I remember last year, we went like 2 weeks without content. That's how I remember it anyway. So regardless, if it's not that exact number, 2 weeks, it still feels more full this time around. So, yeah, I loved it. I was of course glad to catch TV Talk. What I want to say about TV Talk doesn't really have anything to do with this episode in general, but I do want your take on this. One of my very first interactions with Josh McCouga was me asking him his opinion of Bates Motel. He said it wasn't his thing, and I think I've probably mentioned it on the show before. But I just got a tweet from McCouga because Bates Motel Season 4 is on Netflix as of today.
It's so good. It's so good, Season 4.
Yes, I agree. It is a show that is overlooked. Vera Farmiga is overlooked every year at award season. It's a shame, really. But regardless, I again sent McCouga an image, the notification that it is on Netflix, and he still absolutely refuses to cover it on TV Talk. And I'll read the text. I'll actually
not even a high and low mention.
I don't know. I mean, he might do that, but he said in the tweet, he said, it's pretty dumb actually. No, thank you. Not one of us watches. So no one on the panel watches Bates Motel. He summed it up to this: creepy kid, creepy mom, creepy end. I get it.
Look, I'll be the first to admit I did not love the first 3 seasons. I'm hesitant to even call myself a fan, but season 4 was some of the best television I watched in 2016. The acting is great. Great character actors like Richard Alpert from Lost.
Nestor Carbonell, come on.
Yeah, Nestor Carbonell, of course. I love calling him Richard Alpert, as well as the mayor of Gotham City. But you've got Opie from Sons of Anarchy, Ryan Hurst. You've got a lot of good character actors on this show. But the show absolutely hit another level in season 4. And I know Josh has very little tolerance for scary stuff, but it's not a horror show. It's creepy, yes, but it's not scary. So I encourage people to get caught up and watch season 4. Season 4 is special, but apparently you do not have that much in common with Josh McCouga, Snelljob.
I just think just quality aside, or your preference aside, it blows my mind that of all the television that they cover, they're completely going to overlook Bates Motel. I find that insane. Now, if it's just a matter of they haven't been keeping up with it, I don't expect them to watch all 4 seasons, but it still makes me question how this entire show could just go overlooked all these years. Blows my mind.
If it was a British show, Griffin would be all over it.
I think you nailed it with the fact
it's no Poldark. It's no Poldark.
Yeah, whatever.
Am I saying it right? Poldark?
Yeah, whatever that show is. I don't even know where those shows even exist on television. Anyway, I don't know if
BBC One, brah.
Okay, I don't have that channel. But
Graham Butler's going to chime in. It's actually BBC Two.
We love you, Graham. No, what I wanted to say was I think that's McCouga's way of dancing around the fact that he is too chicken to watch that show. And I think that's what it comes down to.
He could say the same thing to you about the fact that you still haven't watched Peaky Blinders or Battlestar Galactica.
I will watch Peaky Blinders when I finish Game of Thrones.
Please do. And I want to ask our audience what they would prefer. Would they prefer Tom Hardy as his Taboo character? Would they prefer Tom Hardy in Taboo? Or would they prefer Tom Hardy in an Alfie Solomons spinoff? Alfie Solomons is his Peaky Blinders character, so I'm curious, for people that have seen both shows, would they prefer Taboo with Tom Hardy or an Alfie Solomons spinoff? I asked Josh to make this one of their Twitter questions of the week. He chimed in that he doesn't have enough sample size yet for Taboo, but let's see if he fulfills the promise of making it a Twitter question, because I think it's a damn good question for TV Talk on Monday. So stay tuned to that. Snelling, are you ready? Are you ready for Heroes?
Let's do it.
What's next? All right. Robert Meyer Burnett hosted Heroes because John Schnepp is walking the earth like Kane in Kung Fu.
It blows my mind that he was able to host this show, Brian Davids, given the fact that he is, in fact, camera shy.
You do not want to pick this battle with me, Snelling. Have people not learned their lesson by now to not pick certain battles with me?
I don't think they have.
Choose your battles wisely, because I do not want to open up this whole thing again. But I gladly will if you want.
Nah, I don't want you to.
Okay, thank you. Because okay, so V. Robinson and Amy Dallin were on the show. Jason has not been on the show in quite a while, it seems. But my point was, there was a big controversy this week about the fact that THR interviewed John Peters, the famed Superman producer. He's produced a ton of big Hollywood blockbusters over the years. THR claimed that this was the first John Peters interview in 10 years, but as fans of the Schmoes know, he was on his documentary, the Superman, what's it called again? What Happened? The Return of Superman Lives? Or
The Death of Superman Lives. What happened? TDSLOWA.
That acronym, man, it kills me every time. But yeah, he interviewed John Peters in his documentary, which I have seen despite my flubbing the title. And Schnepp was really upset that THR did not correct the news. So I feel like Schnepp's absence is related to the fact that he was so upset about the blatant disrespect that THR showed him that he just said, screw it. I'm taking the week off. Maybe he punched a hole in his wall like the OA. Maybe he punched a hole in the wall. Maybe he broke his hand. Maybe he had to nurse this injury that Kristian is blaming it on. He's saying that John Schnepp was injured. That's why he couldn't attend the Schmoedown. So I think it's all related to the John Peters snub.
I don't know about that. I'm not. Of course, he's mad. I mean, I saw it on Twitter, but to leave a full week of Collider content, it does have me curious, though, only because
speculation is fun.
I'm sorry. I'm curious about his absence because, for one, he was absent in a Schmoedown that they pre-taped. Sorry, guys, just to give you a heads up, they tape those things. So
they recorded it on Tuesday.
So I'm wondering...
They recorded Tuesday.
Okay. I'm wondering why he's gone. Kristian would not tell me. When Kristian doesn't respond to me, it's because he's just refusing to answer. I also...
Well, what did you ask him?
I asked him why Schnepp was absent.
See, he told me that he was injured, but that's the reason he gave to everybody. So I do feel like he probably punched a hole in his wall and broke his hand. That's why he couldn't appear. But I asked him if this was something last minute, and he said no, it wasn't something last minute. So it seemed like it was a last-minute replacement by Campea on Tuesday's Heroes. That's the announcement that we ultimately got, that Campea was taking Schnepp's place. But Kristian said that it wasn't some last-minute thing, that they did know about it. So perhaps Schnepp had something come up after they originally booked the match. So do with that as you will.
Interesting. I thought that Robert Meyer Burnett did a good job hosting, though.
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine.
Okay.
I mean, my bigger concern was on the fact that, Ashley V. Robinson gives her opinion on the Defenders poster, and people can't just accept it. They cannot just accept what her opinion is. They have to go into the comments and rip her to shreds, not for her opinion, but for who she is as a person. It's unbelievable that people have to go into the comments to rip people apart on a personal level, in terms of their politics, in terms of their identity. They can't just let an opinion be an opinion. They can't just say, I disagree, and that's it. They have to go into the comments and write comment after comment that rips into who she is as a person. I have no idea why women such as Ashley V. Robinson or Amy Dallin or whomever, I have no idea why these women continue to come onto these shows when they face so much scrutiny, so much abuse. SPR, we know, is famous for all the abuse that she gets. Well, more on that later. But I have no idea why these great, talented women come onto these shows when they are under the microscope for everything they say.
A lot of Collider fans are just assholes. I mean, that is something that I have unfortunately learned. And before people get up in arms, I did not say that people in the Schmoeville Facebook group, I didn't say the majority of Collider fans. I just said a lot of Collider fans are dickheads. And it's just sort of like this mob mentality, and you're absolutely right. We talked about it several times. It's sexism is a huge issue, and it sucks. It just absolutely sucks. And I don't know. I'm just speculating. I'm just thinking about this as I'm talking, as I usually do. I don't know. Our female talent. Hold on. Is the idea of female talent leaving Collider for this reason the right way to answer this? Because the issue of sexism online will never be solved if women continue to run away. And I don't want to see that. I don't know how to fix this. I mean, I can rant on this podcast and just tell people to shut the hell up all day long, but I don't know if this is ever going to go away. And the last thing I want is for female talent to give up in this space. It's the last thing I want.
Like, when you look at Schmoes Know, if they get 100,000 viewers per episode, they'll get about 700 comments. Of those 700 comments, maybe a third is critical of someone like Sasha. So we're talking about a very small number of people that go out of their way to say terrible things. But they're always the people with the worst things to say. They're always the ones who are most active in the comments.
Yeah.
The people that have positive things to say or would have positive things to say, they don't go out of their way to comment. That's why you don't have 100,000 comments. You've got 700 total comments. So those opinions stand out more because not a lot of people post their comments, good or bad. So I hate the idea, though, that if you're Ashley V. Robinson or if you're Sasha, I hate the idea that they're getting this impression that the majority of the audience feels this way when the majority of the audience does not feel this way. But it sure feels like it when you have such a small number of comments, but such a big number of those comments are saying such terrible things. So it's all relative to the number of views, but it just stands out more because the people that are saying such terrible things are the people willing to go out of their way to make a comment. So I kind of repeated my point, but when you put it into perspective, it's not a lot of people saying these terrible things, but they stand out because there aren't that many people commenting.
Just out of curiosity, how often do you comment on Collider videos?
I try to comment every video now. I try to say something positive, something constructive. I always try to put at least one comment per video that I watch each week.
See, I pretty much never do I comment, and that's mainly because I typically watch on my television. I don't watch at a computer, but I've very rarely done it. I think that you're absolutely right, though. I think that is one way to sort of right the ship in a way, is for people to consciously make the decision to comment positively, even if it's just something quick. Love the show. You're absolutely right. That would help, and if people kind of banded together to do that, it would make a huge difference. So,
or just say, if you have a negative statement, don't say anything.
Yeah.
Like, when has your negative comment changed anything about who's on the show, the structure of the show? When has complaining accomplished anything?
It goes back to that original problem that Kristian brings up all the time. It's like, why do you even watch it? Like,
right.
If you don't like the show, turn it off and never come back. Why do you continue to watch it if you despise something so much about it? It's just, God, people piss me the hell off. My God.
There's a lot of bored people. There are a lot of bored people in the world, and some people, they get a big kick and a big thrill out of making other people feel terrible online. That is a pastime for certain people. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
But in Sasha's case, she tweeted after last week's Schmoes Know Show something to the effect of, "It's a shame that the one online community that I'm associated with says such terrible things about me all the time." And I tried to tell her, look, it's not the majority. It's a very small number of people. But to her, it feels like the majority, even though it's a very small number.
Right.
So I'm just surprised that they're able to get these women to come on at all, because the women on these channels, no matter what show it is, they're treated so much differently than the male cast members. They're evaluated for their looks first and foremost, and then their opinions second. So it's just, there's going to come a point where we're not going to get female talent on these shows. We're just going to run out of people. The word is going to spread from one woman to another that the Schmoelider universe is not a good place for them to be. And I would hate to see that happen. So, people, do you want episodes of these shows with all guys? Because if you do, this type of rhetoric is the way to make that happen. If you keep saying horrible things about the women in the online movie space, it's a very small community. Word travels fast. There are only so many of these women that do this job or are able to do this job. Eventually, if you alienate enough of them, they're just not going to show up anymore. So be careful. Be careful what you wish for, I guess.
Yeah, and that would be a load of bullshit. So,
all right, what's next?
What is next? Jedi Council? Nightmares? I didn't catch Nightmares this week.
Collider Nightmares, we had Clark returning from her lost voice. We had Riley, Perry, and Ben Bagley, because Schnepp was again walking the earth like Kane from Kung Fu. Ben Bagley was in a movie called The Funhouse Massacre. He promoted it on Schmoes, I think last year. It came out in 2015, but I remember him on the Collider set promoting it on Schmoes. So, familiar face, fun guest. And not much to say. I mean, just another solid episode. Some interesting Stranger Things talk based on what the early leaks are about the plot. But the show is consistently good. Great people. I like seeing Ben Bagley on these channels again. Moving to Jedi Council, Tiffany Campea, John Roca in place of Mark Ellis, and Kristian Harloff. It seems like Ellis is barely on the council these days. He was on last week, but it seems like he's not on as much as he used to be. Yeah, I know his comedy schedule sometimes interferes, but it's still strange that we don't get the Ellis. Well, I guess it does make sense. I guess it's a Thursday show, so it does make sense. Forgive me.
What's even more strange, did you see the people in the Facebook group criticizing Roca's haircut?
That was bizarre.
Because here's why it's bizarre.
Because I would never do it.
Well, it's bizarre to care about a man's haircut, for one. But two, that is just a regular haircut. There's nothing about that haircut other than saying, oh, Roca got a haircut. I like it. This is different. This is not...
It's a fade. It's a fade. It's a classic fade cut.
It is a typical haircut, and people were giving them shit for it. And I'm like, really? That's nothing. That's nothing. Why would... I don't know. It's like the impression is that people can't... Like, a man can't strive to look good on the show. It's like they expect everyone to show up in hoodie and flip-flops like Mark Ellis. And the one time a guy, like, actually cares... I think Roca does care about his appearance. So
if you work on camera, you care about your appearance.
Sure.
Some people think he was going for the Colin Farrell look in Fantastic Beasts and Where Not to Find Them, or whatever it's called. People were saying because he works at Harry Potter Land that he was going for that look. So I haven't seen the movie. Would you agree with that?
I mean, it's similar, but again, it
doesn't matter. If the guy cares about his look, that's fine. But as I always say on this show, I don't go after personal appearances, personal lives, employment status. Evaluate their thoughts, evaluate their behavior. Don't evaluate what they look like or who they're dating, who they're married to. Leave them alone. Leave them alone.
I'm so excited to bring this up because I know that you have this note too. I know that you do.
I bet I do. I bet I know where you're going.
John Roca taking a shot at Campea and Film HQ by referencing Mark Hamill's pop culture show. And Roca turned to Campea and said, "Oh, you know something about that, don't you?" There's a couple of levels to this. For one, Makuga clarified, but it's still sort of a mystery as to what exactly went down with Film HQ, and obviously Campea hasn't spoken on it. And like I don't know that I don't know that I would either. I mean, I wouldn't want to address it. I would kind of be a little embarrassed, and that's fine. But
you are right. On mailbags, he has not said it was canceled. He's brought it up, but he has not clarified anything.
The second level to this is that Rocha is saying this to the person that we all assume took away his top 10 show.
Oh, he did. He absolutely did.
So that was the second reason why I was smirking at this. And I knew that you like ate that moment up because it was great.
Yeah, Campea couldn't think of anything fast enough. He was just like, oh, like he didn't really have a quippy comeback. So
how badly did Campea want to remove Rocha from the set right then and there?
Oh, I'm sure he regrets that moment right there. I'm sure he's like, why wasn't Ken available? Why wasn't Riley available? They're probably writing something else. But there was another moment, though, where they talked about how you could hear someone uncover the Imperial March in the Rogue One Vader scene. I won't specify too much, but nobody acknowledged that they recognized it until this report, except for Campea. I don't believe for 5 seconds that Campea recognized the Imperial March music in that Vader scene until this report came out, because he never once said that he heard the Imperial March in that Vader scene and all the coverage of this movie until that point. All the time they devoted to talking about the score for Rogue One, all the controversy that Kristian drummed up for the score, he never once said, oh yeah, but the Imperial March, which you wanted more of, at least it's in the Vader scene. Campea never said that, and yet he was acting like it was something he did notice when this report came out. So I don't buy it for 1 minute.
I am not going to be as harsh here, only because, come on, let's face it.
Because you know I'm right?
No, because that sounds like something you would do.
You know that he would have said this beforehand, given all of Kristian's complaints about them not utilizing Williams' score enough. And yet, the way he reacted to the report was like, yeah, I noticed it. Like, he acted so arrogant. He acted like Brian Davids. He acted like me.
He did. It sounded like you when he said it.
But I could tell that he was full of it. I didn't believe it for 1 minute because of all the previous discussion.
That's the other way he was like you. He was full of it.
Whoa. I'm speaking truth. Like, all the times that Kristian complained about no Williams score, Campea could have said, but in the Vader scene, and he never did.
Yeah.
He could have actually Kristian for days about this, but he didn't. So he'll correct or try to correct or prove wrong Kristian's theory about them moving to 2 films per year, which is inevitable. So he'll go out of his way to disprove Kristian's theory about Lucasfilm moving to 2 films per year, but he won't go out of his way to bring up the fact that he did hear Imperial March during the Vader scene. So I call BS. I sell it.
The more that Campea complains about the fact that there's no crawl in the movie, the less of a deal I think it is that there was no crawl in Rogue One. Have you ever reacted that way before? Like, at first you agree with someone, something that someone has said on the Schmoes panel, but the more they complain, they convince you to think the exact opposite. Like, you know what? I don't think this is worth being mad about.
Yeah, I think Campea shading Mad Max Fury Road so much last year made me love it even more.
Okay. Interesting.
So there's an example of that. Moving to Crash Course. Crash Course took a week off, but they were back this past Sunday as John Schnepp took time to do a Justice League Crash Course. Everything we know so far. It's currently sitting at 44,000 views. This was our only shot of John Schnepp for the week, obviously pre-recorded since he's walking the earth like Kane from Kung Fu.
Stop!
After breaking his hand in response to the John Peters stuff. So, Crash Course, solid episode once again. And then I noticed they're doing something new as they're doing more editorials. Perry has done 2 in the past week. She released the first one last Saturday. She released another one this Saturday, or perhaps it was Friday. But the first one was about Deadpool's Oscar chances. The second one was about the stunts in Triple X. So she's been doing more editorials. And per Friday's Movie Talk, I believe, I think Kristian and Clark are doing an editorial about the ending of Split, M. Night Shyamalan's new film. So I think on top of Crash Courses, they have made a priority to do more editorials in the future, so look forward to that.
Speaking of those, featured videos on the channels, to talk about the Schmoes Know channel for a minute, have you noticed that they haven't put out an Imagine That video in months?
Yeah, I've been meaning to bring this up. I think it's dead. I think it was an idea worth trying out, but obviously it looks like they take a lot of time to do.
Yeah.
And given how busy they are with the Schmoedown, I don't think it set the world on fire like they were hoping to warrant all that time. So who knows? I mean, there was some holiday stuff in between. Kristian's been busy going to XXX screenings, so I'm not going to say it's dead until we get confirmation, but if I had to bet, I think it's dead.
Yeah, I don't think there's been one since October. So I think
plus those were the best two to do. Justice League with George Miller, and then Iron Man with Tom Cruise. I mean, there are other examples, but as far as ideas that were really, really close, besides the one that Schnepp did for his documentary, everybody kind of knows all the information about these close calls. And that's a point that I made in response to these, is that they didn't really introduce any new information. That's why John Schnepp's documentary was so valuable, because he was able to unearth new information that nobody knew about that movie. In Imagine That's case, they're just taking the existing information that everybody else knows about. So unless you can introduce new information to the table, there's not really a compelling need to keep doing them other than to see some cool Photoshop work. So
yeah, I'm with you. I did think it was a good idea, but you're absolutely right. I think there was so much labor involved in that type of video. So it's a shame. I mean, I would like to see it make a comeback on Collider, maybe, if they have more of a team in place to make that kind of video. From what I remember, I think one of the guys at Collider was in charge of putting it together. But if they had more people behind it and they actually put it up on that channel, maybe it's a little too close to some of the other stuff that they're doing, but they were absolutely interesting. I mean, I knew about the Tom Cruise thing in a Slash Film article or something or whatever, but I think they're fun to watch because they do enough of their own like opinionated stuff inside as well. So,
are you concerned about Mark and Kristian not doing? Let me restate that. Are you concerned about the fact that Mark and Kristian have only done one review together in the last 2 weeks?
I feel like it was even before that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's been a trend for a while that they're not doing as many reviews together. They'll do some solo reviews. Mark is doing some solo ones. Kristian as well. Mark typically does the horror films by himself. But in general, the last few months, I know Kristian had some family stuff, September, October, but I don't have enough Mark and Kristian in my life right now, and it's a shame.
I'm still waiting for a show just between Mark and Kristian. I mean, that's what I'm wanting, whether it's...
Especially, sorry to cut you off, especially with Kristian not on the live show, we do not have the banter between Ellis and Harloff anymore.
Right.
So we got to make up for it somehow.
You're absolutely right. Get Ellis a cameo appearance on the first episode of Coffee with Ken and Kristian, and make him eventually a recurring character. And then in season 2, you can add Mark Ellis's name to the title of the show.
Walking to and from Wood Ranch with Coffee with Collider panelists.
I love it. I love it.
Walking to get coffee and Wood Ranch with Collider correspondents.
And since Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee is moving from Crackle to Netflix.
Oh, that's going to be great.
They can you're absolutely right. Now they can fill that void and work with Crackle. And everybody wins.
I see.
Right. Anyway.
Well, Snell Job, are you ready for the mispronunciation of the week? Yes, that was intentional, folks.
Yes, I'm ready.
Some people still don't get that I'm purposely saying mispronunciation.
Yeah, just ignore them. It's fine.
It's a riff on something Ken Knapsack said in the JTE Behind the Music, whatever it was called. Anyways, I've been hearing this one for a couple months now, and it really bothers me because it should be easy to pronounce. I'm talking about the John Wick Chapter 2 director. He was co-director on the first John Wick. He was the stuntman for Keanu Reeves during the Matrix trilogy. He literally did the stunt work of Neo. And now he's directing John Wick Chapter 2 by himself. I'm talking about Chad Stahelski. Some people say Chad Stelsky, Chad Stalsky. It's Chad Stahelski. So you're going to be hearing that name a lot in the next month or so, since John Wick Chapter 2 is coming out very soon. So Chad Stahelski is your mispronunciation of the week. Oh, and a quick follow-up on Dev Patel. Someone tried to call me out on Dev Patel's pronunciation actually being Dave Patel, like JTE unknowingly pronounced it as. Do you remember this from last week?
Boo.
So you remember this from last week. JTE has said this a couple times, but he would say Dave Patel instead of Dev Patel.
Right.
Well, apparently to Hindi speakers, they do pronounce Dev as Dave. I'm not going to say it in their accent because I don't want to offend anyone, but the way that it's said would actually make sense. However, folks, this segment is about pronouncing names per the English pronunciation. And even though Dev was born to two Hindu Indian parents, he was raised in London. Therefore, he was raised speaking English. His parents moved to London when they were teenagers. So he was raised around the English language. And in the English language, Dev is pronounced exactly that. It's pronounced Dev. So therefore, in this case, the tie goes to the subject themselves. How Dev tells us to pronounce his name is how we pronounce his name, regardless of the origin. So you can check his pronunciation on his recent THR profile when he did the recent roundtable. He introduced himself as Dev Patel. So once again, you're supposed to factor the English pronunciation, which I was doing, but I was also honoring what Dev himself wants to be called, which is Dev. So thank you for the correct answer if you're a Hindi speaker, but in our case, it's Dev as it is for Dev as well. Thank you.
Chad Stahelski. Always enlightening, Brian. Thank you so much. Let's wrap up Collider discussion. We almost got into a habit of not discussing the Schmoedown. How dare us? But it's been a few weeks since we've had a match, and like Kristian always does, he delivers, and he gave us a double dose of Schmoedown goodness this Friday. I'm curious, real quick though, where are we at when it comes to our Schmoedown League? Because we decided that we were going to get something together. Where are we in that process?
I have notified our league members, and we will be drafting sometime next week. The big question is, do we apply points retroactively or just start our scoring as of next week? I don't think anyone will mind if we start our scoring retroactively based on the two matches that took place this week. So it's happening. It's a slow run of it, but it's happening.
Awesome. Okay, so we are going to talk about that in the weeks to come.
Yes.
Let's start as if this was a typical week in the Schmoedown, and we'll start off with this team match between Team Heroes and Team Superhero News. This excited me quite a bit because I'm a huge fan of both of these teams, and of course we talked about it earlier how John Campia came in to fill in for Schnepp, I guess is the better way to say that.
Schnepp broke his hand. He's walking the earth, and interesting to note though, the graphics still said John Schnepp, even though Harloff said that this was not a last-minute bit of information that Schnepp wouldn't be appearing. So somebody did not update the graphics. Maybe they didn't care to update the graphics. I guess it doesn't matter. But Campia filled in. And it's worth noting a couple things here. The round one rules are different. We heard about this before the new season started, but round one rules are different as everybody gets the same 8 questions with whiteboard answers. No more advantages to the team that gets to go second and knows the categories. So I take it that you are on board like I am with the whiteboard round one.
Yeah, Sorry, it sounded like you ended your sentence early. No, absolutely. It makes total sense, and I love what is now known as the Freddie Prinze Jr. rule as well. I love that.
You must speak your answer while showing your board to everybody at the same time. So Ellis referenced Kristian Harloff's Golden Throat. I'm glad that's another trend that I could start for everybody else. So that has continued into Season 4 of the Schmoedown. And round one, though, I guess we're ready to get into it. Round one, pretty back and forth round one. It ended at 9-8, the final score of round one. Team Heroes was in the lead ever so slightly. I thought Superhero News was going to run away with this just because Campia has been so vulnerable when it comes to his Schmoedown play. So did this go as expected for you?
I think that I was a little worried because I sort of like the idea of Campia and RMB as a team more than I like RMB and Schnepp. Because I think Schnepp is still a weak link in the Schmoedown. I know he has an advantage.
Campia as well.
Well, I think Campia is stronger than Schnepp, and I don't know how much Campia really factored into this win, if at all.
Schnepp has won before. Campia has never won until today, or to this match.
Yeah, but hasn't Schnepp been in more matches, though?
Campia's been in, 3 matches now? This was his first win out of 3 matches?
He was in with Dan Murrell and then the Star Wars match, right? Is that it?
I thought he did another one. I thought he did a tag team one. Oh, he played with Tiffany in the past, and he lost to Tiffany in the past.
Okay, in a different season. Okay.
Let's call a spade. Campia is not good at the Schmoedown.
Okay, I think he's better than Schnepp, but I do want to talk about his answers in season 1. Brain farted with replicants. Okay.
In round one, let me say this is not a brain fart. This is something I have a very specific point to make about. Campia has been giving Blade Runner crap for a very long time. He thinks it's overrated. Blade Runner is basically the original Arrival, the original Fury Road as far as films that Campia knows a lot of people love, but he goes out of his way to not like. If you have seen Blade Runner, then you know the term replicants. This is not a term that you just forget or confuse with something else. This is like watching Star Wars and not knowing the term Jedi. They say replicants 1,000 times in the movie Blade Runner. So I don't think he actually watched Blade Runner as closely, if at all. Maybe he watched half of it and gave up on it. But if he said that he watched it a few years ago when it first came up as this big topic of conversation, and he was saying it was overrated despite Schnepp's urges for him to watch it. I don't think he actually watched it because you would know the term replicant. Replicant is a term that is part of pop culture. There's been a big question about whether a certain character is a replicant for the last 30 years, and yet Campia doesn't know it? I don't think he actually watched it when he said he did a few years ago. Maybe he turned it off halfway through because this is embarrassing. This is not a brain fart. I know when John Campia brain farts, this is not a brain fart.
I am not too keen on this film, so I don't care either way if he likes it or not. But I'm more interested in what he did next, which was the question, and I'm paraphrasing, which movie came out in 2016 directed by J.A. Bayona. And
oh my God.
There's 2 interesting things about this. For one, I am 100% certain that he knows Denis Villeneuve directed Arrival because it's such a recent film and they've talked about it so much, and obviously we've touched on that already on this podcast. Point number 1. Number 2 is J.A. Bayona was just in studio promoting this film.
Exactly.
So it blows my mind that was his answer, and that's all I'll say.
Also, how did nobody know the Lee Daniels answer? Precious was a recently nominated Academy Award contender. How did nobody know Lee Daniels? But that's not a big deal.
I did appreciate the Sapphire joke, though.
Yeah.
Like you said, the round finished 9-8 Team Heroes. Let me ask you this. In round 2, we found out that there's a new category introduced. Based on the fact that both teams spun movie quotes and spun again, is movie quotes the new movie release dates? Do you think that topic is really as bad as they made it seem?
because it's new, people are afraid of the unknown. As to quote the most kind of tropey, cliched line in Hollywood these days, people fear what they don't know or what they don't understand. You hear that line in so many TV shows and films. But because it's so new, nobody knew what to expect, so people wanted to go with the safe bet. But yeah, Heroes got famous directors instead on their second spin, and that worked out very well for them because they were able to take an 18-9 lead with this second spin. So it worked out in this case. But yeah, I would like to see how difficult movie quotes can be.
Superhero News did a great job once they, their second spin ended on release dates. They killed it in that round. They didn't get all of them right, but they still impressed the shit out of me doing that. And
yep.
Team Heroes eventually got a St. Elmo's Fire steal, which made that
was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. That second round was a lot more interesting, though, because they did so well and they were able to catch up. I believe the round ended 19-19 in a tie, which, of course, made
that seal tied it up. So huge turn of events right there.
Definitely. And that made round 3 all the more interesting. Let's see. We had the De Niro's Superhero News.
This was crazy. Davey Havoc did not know De Niro's wife in Casino. Even if you haven't seen Casino, just a passing look at the trailer or even the poster, you can surmise that Sharon Stone played De Niro's wife in Casino, and yet he missed it. That may have cost him the match. I haven't done the math, but that is a question you have to get right. I mean, just from the trailer, from what I remember, you knew right away that she was his wife. Just from the trailer, back in the day.
Well, they lost.
So that was
they lost by 3, so I don't think that was the one that did it. It was the fact that they missed their 5-point.
Like I
question.
said, I didn't do the math, so I didn't want to hold myself accountable to that. But still, it's a question that he's got to get right. He's got to get that question right. Hector got the Leo Titanic question right. They go up 22-19, and then Heroes for their 1-pointer, which I was pretty impressed. It's not a difficult question, but Gregory Peck played Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, 22-20.
Even I knew that.
But then the Heroes John Campea question. This was a very tough question. 3-pointer Hellraiser 2 title. Of course, Campea missed that, 2022. And back to Heroes for the 5-pointer. I cannot believe that this wasn't an easier question for everybody. I mean, Shine, recent movie, Jeffrey Rush. I knew it. Campea supposedly is a big guy on Oscars, but somehow they got it, but it took some doing. I thought it would be more automatic. And there was something that happened, though, during this answer. As Mark Ellis was talking during the answer, there were a number of occasions throughout both of these new Schmoedown matches where Ellis was kind of off time, where he was talking in moments where he shouldn't have been talking. And this was one of them. He even tried to correct himself because he knew he was talking. He tried to kind of excuse him because he knew he was interrupting in a way. So 25-22, Heroes gets the big 5-pointer. Back to Superhero News for their 5-pointer. They miss Roger Moore's first Bond film, Live and Let Die. Team Heroes, big upset. What'd you think?
I thought it was a great match, and it kind of makes me think, and then again, this goes back into what I was going to say. I don't know if it would have been as strong with Schnepp. I don't know if it's a massive difference that Campea appeared on Heroes. That was just my personal take. But I'm going to be curious to see when Schnepp comes back and see how that team handles it again. Obviously, this means that Hector is now going to, it's the next match for Robert Meyer Burnett is a match with Hector. They changed that up at the last minute.
I'm glad they did that. But one more point. Robert Meyer Burnett was the reason they won this match. Campea did everything possible to lose this match for Team Heroes. He did not show up when the team needed him. So I realize that you think Campea might be better than Schnepp, but let's not take away from Robert Meyer Burnett and the fact that, he's an Inner Geekdom champion, but he carried this team to victory in this case. Campea didn't get the Hellraiser question. It was Robert Meyer Burnett who came up big when it mattered most.
That Hellraiser question's a difficult question, though.
Of course, but I mean, replicants, J.A. Bayona, the easiest questions of the night, Campea did not get. I mean, he had the damn director in his damn studio.
Okay, we covered it.
Some of these questions were served to him on a silver platter, and he still didn't get them right. So, why is Emma Fyffe still doing the post interviews, Snelling? I'm curious.
I don't know. I thought we were going to get, is it Sturger or Sturger?
Sturger.
Okay, I thought we were going to have Sturger by now, but apparently, based on a social media post, she won't be back she won't be on or introduced until next week's show. So, I guess it just depends on when this was pre-recorded, Brian.
They recorded on Tuesday, so would you prefer them to announce things closer to their debut, such as headphones and couches and whatnot? Do you think they are announcing things too soon? Are they trying to get excitement going amongst the fans too early in some cases? Do you think they should hold off?
I forgot for an extended period of time that Sturger was even a thing. Like, I remember the announcement, we talked on it here, and it wasn't until this week when I saw Emma Fyffe, I was like, wait, I thought it was supposed to be that other person. So several weeks went by, I forgot this change was being implemented. It makes me think about all the other announcements that we heard last year about certain people joining the Schmoes Know crew, and they were going to be on the live show more. There were several instances of that. Perry, Mova was one of them, or Sinead. I don't know. Kristian will correct me after this comes out.
Scott Mance.
Same with that, too. I mean, there are a lot of premature announcements that come with this show, or with these shows. So,
are you surprised that Emma Fyffe would even want to do this job, knowing that she's going to be replaced for probably the majority of matches moving forward?
I don't know if that's her attitude. I think she'll
take the paycheck.
Well, I wouldn't word it that way either. I think she's just happy to do it.
I'll word it that way.
Okay, you word it that way. I'll just say that I think she's happy to do it because she's a nice lady.
And she loves Sailor Moon, which I still don't know what that is. Oh, by the way, we got the new backdrop that I promised several weeks ago, because in a DM from Kristian, he told me that yes, we would have a new backdrop like the one that we saw at Spectacular. So I think that adds a whole new element that I cannot wait to see moving forward. Yeah, it's just a backdrop, but it adds something to this competition.
It changes the look of it entirely. It looks way more professional.
Exactly. It ups the quality, makes it look more professional. It's a lot better than the AMCI Spotlight brick wall.
Yeah, and with that came the new logo as well. They changed that up a little bit. They changed up the graphics as well on the thumbnail and everything. So I thought all of that looked pretty good. I like that.
Oh, but Emma Fyffe finally made an impression on me, because she mentioned how it was Campea's first win in the Schmoedown, but then she corrected herself to say your first half win in the Schmoedown. So I love how she took kind of a shot at John there after his behavior throughout that match. So that was I really enjoyed that moment in particular.
I'm sure you did. Okay, but anyway.
Overrated.
Congratulations, Team Heroes, on the win. Let's talk about...
Congratulations, Robert Meyer Burnett, on your win.
Let's talk about the next match, the singles match. Bibbiani versus JTE, of course. Finstock with the best laugh of the night, calling him Tribbiani. Any fans will pick up on that. He also called Nost the pizza guy, which that was great. They were also introduced as the guys from the Canceled Too Soon podcast, which was another clever dig at Collider.
Yes, I noticed this too. Isn't that ironic that Beast hosts a podcast called Cancel Too Soon when Roca and Nost are part of his stable and coming out during the introduction where they're referencing Cancel Too Soon?
It's great.
As a lot of people would say about the Top 10 show on Collider.
Honestly, just now you informed me that was a thing. So all along I thought that they were talking about the Top 10. But regardless, either way you look at it, it's still...
you thought it was a dig at Campea and Collider?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why it's so clever. I mean, he does host a podcast where he talks about TV shows that were canceled after one season too soon. But yeah, I thought it was totally ironic and a complete coincidence that this happened. And What was I going to say here? What did I say to you on my very first episode, or maybe it was the second episode? What did I say about JTE when I first came onto this show?
You said...
Remind me.
Yeah, so stupid. You said...
Remind me.
That if JTE would just quit talking smack and focus on the game, that he will become a winner. And... Okay, well, we're not going to spoil it, because this is the after show, people, but...
Well, I did say if he ever pulls his head out of his ass, he has a belt in his future. And while he still has his head up his ass, the luck is starting to turn. The luck is starting to turn his way. He won the tag team titles. They upset Top 10. They got the tag team titles, and now he's a heavy underdog facing the Beast. The Beast had the record-setting performance. It wasn't a perfect game. I love that Kristian has gone back and altered his words. He called it a perfect game during the highlight, but he's since gone back and said it's not technically a perfect game, just the highest record-setting score. Perfect game means you get every potential point. But at the end of round one, it was 7-5 JTE. Or actually, it was 7-5 Beast.
Right. But
excuse me.
This is when Beast missed his first question in the Schmoedown. I don't know about you, but I don't care about that at all. I mean, it was just a matter of time. I don't think no one, you'd be lying if you said that you thought Bibbiani was going to lose based on the fact that he missed. Because that's just absurd. I didn't think that was a big deal at all. Not really a shocker. He was bound to miss at some point. And that doesn't take anything away from him as a contestant. I think people were blowing that out of proportion.
Did you know who Barney Ross was, out of curiosity?
No.
Or what?
Oh wait,
film
no,
he
I
was
did.
a part of?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. That was the question.
That was a question that the Beast missed.
I did know that, and it sucked that was the question that he missed because those films are so recent, and there's 3 of them. So there were 3 opportunities for him to learn that. But anyway, I felt good about myself because that was something I knew over the Beast.
It's worth pointing out that JTE barely missed the 7th question, Julianne Moore's first Oscar for Still Alice. JTE wrote Remembering Alice. Yeah. So I feel like JTE, he's going to have a lot of screw-ups in round 1 because he's going to get like one word wrong quite a bit. And then it's going to have to go to the judges on whether to give him the point. And more often than not, he'll probably lose the point, like in the case of Remembering Alice. So I feel like the whiteboard thing could really come back to haunt JTE, who often confuses words with slightly different words and replaces words with similar words, etc. So do you know what I'm saying here?
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Again, you mentioned already 7-5 Bibbiani into round 1. Round 2. I personally think scores and soundtracks is the worst topic to get. I think that is worse than movie release dates and movie quotes by far.
Isn't it crazy how Beast spun it twice though?
Yeah, that's awful. I mean, awful luck.
This was a sign that this was simply not the Beast's night. This was not a category. This was the one chink in his armor, as Emma Fyfe said. I can't believe I just quoted her, but this was the one category that obviously is a weakness for him. I'm sure he's been reviewing every score of every major movie of the last 20 years after this matchup, but clearly we found a weakness, and JTE exploited it.
Yeah.
And Kristian mispronounced Chiquino in one of the multiple choice questions, but then he corrected himself. So props on that. Oh, and by the way, random point, Ken during Movie Talk said Martin Scorsese correctly. So again, we're making changes one day at a time. But JTE had a big steal with the Patrick Doyle, became 9-6. JTE, or actually, wait a second. No, actually, JTE did steal, but he became 9-6. I was shocked that no one knew the composer for Predator, which was Alan Silvestri. Nobody got that. JTE doesn't steal, Beast doesn't get it. The reason I bring it up is because it's virtually the same score as Back to the Future. Silvestri did that as well. I mean, he did Back to the Future a couple years prior, but he used a lot of the same music. I mean, very, very close if you watch both films. So I'm surprised that these two guys, especially
JTE,
did not pick up on that.
Yeah, especially JTE, for sure.
Well, it was, I believe it was the Beast question. It was the Beast question, but JT couldn't even steal it.
Right.
That's what surprised me.
But yeah, round 2 was JTE's comeback. Of course, it ended 11-13 in his favor. And round 3, JTE didn't even have to answer a single question. This ended in TKO. Bibbiani with the Daddy Daycare guess. I knew that reference. Saw that movie in theaters. Surprised he doesn't know who Jeff Garlin is. I mean,
he's got to know. From Curb Your Enthusiasm, he's got to know.
And from what's the show? The Goldbergs right now. That's a hit comedy. So anyway,
he's a guy that you see pop up in a lot of films that you didn't realize he was in. You just didn't know it at the time. By the way, Mark Ellis misreported dramas during the first Scores and Soundtracks spin. Again, he was kind of off of his game. I thought I'd point that out again. Daddy Daycare, I'm not surprised you saw that in theaters because you're 19 years old. Tough questions, though. The Harold Faltermeyer, 2 iconic 80s comedies, Beverly Hills Cop or Fletch. Hard question, but you would think for the Beast that would be right in his wheelhouse. He did not get it. Shocking turn of events, though.
Yeah.
JT did the fake handshake, as you'd expect, trying to be that heel, that word that you love so much. I wasn't surprised as much as some people. I mean, Mark and Kristian were really trying to sell how surprised they were. They were really kind of laying it on thick, the acting job that they were trying to do. But as they say in football, any given Sunday, any given Schmoedown. Any given Schmoedown.
I think Kristian's reaction was actually genuine. I think it was...
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Go back and rewatch it. He was absolutely overselling it.
You think so?
It was a bit delayed, too. It's like he was trying to play up the moment way too much. Go back and rewatch it, I promise you.
I'll rewatch it.
Because I watched it like 3 times. I rewatched it 3 times.
The whole match or just that moment?
Just the moment to sell how shocking the upset was.
I thought you were saying that you watched it 3 times, the entire match.
No. Just Kristian's reaction because he kind of oversold it because it's this huge upset. I mean, this was they were trying to say it was one of the biggest upsets, if not the biggest upset of all time. In fact, they did say it was the biggest upset of all time. I mean, nobody thought this was possible, but I've been saying this for years. JTE has a belt in his future if he just pulls his head out of his ass and stops talking shit. He hasn't done that, but as he says it, Finstock is his good luck charm. He said, "I told you so." So, can JTE vie for a title? I think so, but he's got to cool it on the karma. The karma is what kills him. Those unlucky bounces are what kill him in the past. And what a way to start the season.
During the Schmoedown Spectacular episode that we did, you asked me if JTE redeemed himself, and I said no. I think this is the moment where I start to turn around with JTE. It was a low-scoring match, though, 13-12. Quite a difference from 25-2 from the other match. But They had a lot of fun at the end of the match in front.
I did not care for Roca coming out and interrupting.
I laughed my ass off.
I did not care for that.
I loved it. I thought it was hilarious.
It doesn't accomplish anything. This is why I have trouble with the Outlaw character, because he goes out of his way to interrupt, and then it doesn't really lead to anything but the same old nonsense. And so, I want to see JT and Roca again. Wait, they've played before, haven't they?
What do I know?
God, I can't even remember anymore. All these matches run together, but I mean, obviously Riley plays. God, who does Riley? Riley plays Levine, and the winner of that becomes a top contender. So if Roca beats Merle, Roca would then play Riley or Levine, the winner of that. So JTE, he's on path to a potential title match eventually. He's very close. He's probably 1 or 2 wins away, maybe just 1. I haven't looked at it, but JTE. It's going to be a big year. It's the year of JTE. I'm saying it right now. The year of JTE. I called it from the start. Everybody else jumped onto the bandwagon that I started when I said that this guy's got tons of talent. They made a documentary after I gave him my voice of approval, my stamp of approval. And now Campia is trying to jump on the JTE bandwagon. But just know I was there from the start. I said the guy had titles in his future, and he's proven me right.
I roll my eyes. I think it's funny. I roll my eyes every time someone credits eyes. I roll my eyes every time someone credits Finstock for JTE's success. It's so stupid. I mean, it's
especially when JTE says it.
It's funny, but it's just so dumb. It does nothing that Finstock is in that position.
Let me bring up a great point that Beast made. He said because of his first match, people placed impossible expectations on him.
He's right.
To where he was bound to disappoint somehow. So he likes that he's now in the position to where people might take him for granted. Not take him for granted, but think there's weakness to exploit. Now he can really punish people now that he's down. So I think the expectations and the pressure were so huge. I mean, the guy was a #1 pick for a lot of teams, and he's only played one match.
Right. He, but again, this match is an outlier. I think he's going to come back strong and be a contender. So it was just bad luck the way it worked out. So,
but you know, this guy is studying his scores and soundtracks. You know, this is haunting him. You know, he's reviewing all that stuff in his off time. He seems like he's got great work ethic just from following him on Twitter. But what did you think of this last second tag for Makuga's fantasy update? Because they did not do that in the initial take. They closed the show and then it came back on and they were basically like, oh, and we have one more thing. Josh Makuga is here for your fantasy update. So it seemed like this was something that was added after the fact, or they forgot to do it on the first take.
I think it was done. Makuga filmed that entire thing separately after the fact, obviously, because when you
he had to calculate all this stuff
at the end of the first match. It's just the same video, but they cut it off. Did you catch that?
Yeah, it definitely cut.
So he filmed that section after both matches had completed. Of course, like you said, it'd probably give him time to calculate everything, and it was a copy and paste job. So, but yeah, I do. The idea of it though is great. It's gonna help me because I was worried about keeping up with this thing to begin with. So I'm glad he's doing it. And again, I just like that Makuga is a little bit more involved with this kind of stuff with the community that is the Movie Trivia Schmoedown page. So I'm glad he's doing it, and I'm obviously glad that the whole thing is happening. So
yeah, Makuga has done an about face as far as the additional content is concerned. Snelling, are you ready for Schmoes Know Show number 266? Fun, dumb action movies / movie roasts.
With guest host The Flick Pick?
No, not really.
Oh.
Again, what did we say about premature announcements?
This wasn't their fault, though. He got sick, and I think it's because he had an exhausting day working at another studio.
Signing those non-compete agreements can be very exhausting, especially when they were drawn up at the last minute.
Let me just say this. This might be shinfo. It might not matter at all. Shitty info for those of you who don't pick up on that. I didn't watch it on Wednesday Night Live. I didn't. I, for whatever reason, was like, why can't I just still watch this on Thursday? I was probably binging Game of Thrones Wednesday night, and I watched it on Thursday during its regular time. I happened to start the video still at my 10 p.m. I'm not saying that that's a habit. I just kind of thought it was funny. I didn't get to experience it the way that they had intended this week.
As someone who's a fan of going to Thursday night movie releases and has not been able to go to Thursday night movie releases because of the Schmoes Know Show as well as this show, of course I'm going to watch it on Wednesday night because I went to see Split for the first time out of 2 on Thursday night, and boy, am I glad I did, because that movie blew my mind. That's all I'm going to say. Avoid spoilers at all costs. So, Snelling, who's on our cast?
Hosted by Mark Ellis. Joining him at the table was Ace Cabrera, Perry Nemiroff, and Ken Knapsack.
Yeah, the Ace thing threw me for a loop. I can't remember the last time Ace was at the main table to start a show.
Brian screamed, "You are undeserving of the main table, Ace."
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's a big change. And as I said last week, Mark Ellis would make his own impact on the live show, and we're already seeing that as he's bringing in guests from his comedy world, like I said he would last week. This week he brought in Candace Thompson from Jeff Ross's Roast Battles, and again, there's a different type of show with Mark at the helm, and I think you recognize that too, right? I mean, there's just a different feel, a different objective.
Ace, I love Ace, friend of the show. We're not wrong in saying that this threw us off, and it had me curious as to what else was going to happen in the show. A part of me thought that we had a skeleton crew for some reason, and that like I thought I was going to get concerned. Like, well, does Wednesday night mean that less people are able to show up if Ace is at the main table? But obviously, we learned as it went on. They were talking about the half marathon that they ran at Disneyland, which I saw a ton of pictures on Instagram of them. I know you don't have Instagram, but did you see the pictures of them on the Facebook group?
I did see a few pictures, but keep in mind the order was for that, but it was also for the fact that Brett's mom was coming out, and they wanted to have Brett sit next to his mom. But Makuga could have been deserving of that front main desk table or main table seat. Jesus Christ! But yeah, I think they wanted to do the Perry Ace discussion first.
What's funny is they even reference it and make a joke about it at the table, but I myself had some interesting thoughts. I thought it was funny that Perry and Ace looked like a couple in the pictures. I think it was just funny. I was like, oh, these two people are dating. I obviously didn't think that was the case, but that's what it looked like to me. And I think they even referenced that at the main table, that it looked like that they were a couple or that they were trying to set somebody up or something like that. But anyway.
Is Ace your age or is he younger than you?
No, I think he's my age. I think we're the exact same. I'm so damn impressed at how well he did in that run, by the way. I think they posted the stat either on Instagram and the Facebook group. It blows my mind how well he did with how many people were in that race. So congratulations to him. He swam back in the high school and college days as well, so I'm not surprised because he is super athletic. But anyway, good on them for participating in that. That seems like a lot of fun. So.
Since this was our first show without Kristian officially, now that he was on sabbatical, I asked him for a quote before the show. I DM'd him for a quote before the show because we have special access to Kristian Harloff, and we're going to exploit it and remind people of it as often as possible so that they are in turn impressed by the access that we have. So I asked him for a quote. How does it feel to be to not have to worry about a live show tonight? And he said, quote unquote, "For me, I am looking forward to going to a movie tonight, kicking back with a beer, and watching this show." Translation, he's looking forward to going to the XXX screening.
I was wondering what you were going to say because I feel like we would have gotten in trouble if you had not have cleared the fact that you could relay his response on the show. Because what if he was like, fuck yeah, I'm happy to not have to worry about the live show. I mean, I'm so glad this might be a forever thing. And if you had just dropped that on our show, that could have been big trouble. But I totally get it. I mean, I know that like that week that we didn't have to do this show, I took advantage of that, and you get to do things that you don't normally do. So of course, I mean, after all of that time doing the live show, I actually expected that he was going to take advantage of it, kick back, have a beer, and do whatever he was going to do. So,
do you think his daughter enjoyed XXX, The Return of Xander Cage? Do you think she enjoyed going to that screening?
I knew you were going to bring that up. And you're
just curious,
and you're not going to be the last person too. Plenty of people are going to assume, like, they're going to hold Kristian accountable now. Like, if
you said you were going to hang out with your daughter every Wednesday night,
if Kristian does not post a picture of his daughter every Wednesday night, people are going to go crazy. But Kristian's not going to because he shouldn't have to, but people are going to be saying that. So Kristian, if you haven't already, be prepared because it's coming. It's coming.
What did you think of Josh McCouga's Steel City sweatshirt? It seems like his family completely reloaded his Pittsburgh wardrobe this Christmas. We commented about this before, but he's got more stuff than he's ever had before. It's like people were watching or listening to this show that are in his family, and they said, hey, we're going to annoy the Schmoeville After Show guys, and we're going to get him another windbreaker, a sweatshirt or two. We're going to remind everybody where he's from.
Makuga just walks in the studio and Ellis throws a brand new Pittsburgh sweatshirt like, hey, wear this. I like the idea.
Exactly.
Makuga at the beginning of the show, for whatever reason, looked more bored than usual. He was just kind of there with facial...
At the Wanger table.
Yeah, facial expressions, just reacting to things, not really participating. And he was...
He was bitter that Ace was sitting at the main table instead of him.
And he was...
He said, don't you know I'm old school? Don't you know I'm one of the OGs?
And he was texting a lot. I was like, really? Don't be cranky, Makuga. Come on.
He does that a lot, though. He texts... Whenever he's on the Wanger table, he seems to rebel by texting. Yeah. That's not the first time.
We got a moment where Copster, for whatever reason, felt the need to reenact The Shining on his date in Big Bear. Ken with the most heartfelt apology about my car. I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know why he was so upset about that, but thank you, Ken, for the apology.
Yeah, Ellis gave us a nice plug, which again, I'm flattered that Kristian went out of his way to remind them to not forget about us. But yeah, your car was kind of the a guest star of this episode. It kept coming up. So yeah, rest in peace, Bone Bruiser. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, the Bone Bruiser. It's not a name I made up. But
was it a PT Cruiser or something? Is that why you say Bone Bruiser?
No, I'll send you a picture. I have been in several wrecks in that car, and my friends called it the Bone Bruiser because it's as if I used it as a demolition derby vehicle.
Were they all your fault, or none of them were your faults? Why are you crashing your vehicle so many times?
Let's see. I've got rear-ended once, which was not my fault. I've been rear-ended twice. I rear-ended someone, which caused it to look as shitty as it does, and you can find that image on my Instagram or Twitter if you care. I did a before and after from the day that I bought it to my last day with it, which was today. It's a pretty funny picture, if I do say so myself. But anyway, that's a nickname my friends gave to me because I had been through so many wrecks.
So let me guess, because you live in Kentucky, because you are raised to drive tractors, you don't actually have driving lessons because you were raised to drive tractors. So no one bothers to train you how to drive a car. Therefore, that is why you get in all these wrecks. Am I close to what's going on here?
Not in the least. No, you're not.
Well, I've never known anyone to have so many accidents before he turned age 20. That's just crazy.
I didn't even have the car until after I was 20, so...
Even worse, you've had all these accidents in 9 months' time.
Getting rear-ended is not my fault, okay? Maybe...
I don't know.
Your commentary can be on the people of Frankfurt, not just me, okay?
Do you know how to drive a tractor?
I have no idea how to drive a tractor. I wasn't raised on a farm.
Do you know how to drive a semi-truck?
No. I know how to drive a four-wheeler.
Okay, we're getting close, though. We're getting warm here. So, what'd you think of Brett to the Future with Brett's mom this week? Are you disappointed that they took the opportunity to review Nebraska instead of The Prestige, which is what won the Facebook Schmoeville plug? God, I butchered that, of course.
Well...
Or the Schmoeville Facebook poll, not plug.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. I was confused. I didn't know. I didn't know that
10:45
that was a thing.
on a Saturday.
I didn't know that was a thing. So
every week they vote. They vote a few options, and this week was The Prestige, but he didn't do it.
Knowing that now, I wish they had talked about The Prestige, but...
And it's my favorite Christopher Nolan film, so I was very disappointed.
Ooh, interesting. This was something special that he could share with his mom, though, because she talked about how she knew Bruce Dern, right? Didn't she? Was that who she said that she had a connection with somehow, or that she had a story with him on set? Was it him or Will Forte?
I missed that part. I thought she was just saying how she knew people like them in her life.
No,
I didn't realize she actually was on the set.
It was no, I can't remember what it was now. I don't know if it was on set. She had some kind of anecdote about somebody seeing him, and I don't know. Fuck it. I butchered that.
Thanks, Snelling. That's the kind of insight that we offer on the after show, where we're not sure what anyone said.
Brett's mom continues.
My takeaway was that we don't have Uber in Omaha because Ellis gave her a hard time about not going to her show. She said that she couldn't get anyone to go and that it's farther than you think. Are you surprised that Brett wasn't allowed to say fuck growing up? Did that surprise you?
That is something. Hey, me and Brett have a lot in common, okay? Growing up, I was not allowed to cuss at all.
There you go.
In fact, I couldn't say crap until I was in high school. So I did say it, just not in front of my mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you surprised that Brett was dressed as a Cornhusker? I mean, he was basically wearing a John Deere hat and a red jersey like the Cornhuskers. I mean, he was dressed like someone from Nebraska for this episode.
He stuck with the Nebraska theme. I loved it, and I love that he shared this moment with his mother. I love that his mother continues to overshadow Brett on the show. She's fantastic. I love that Ellis got to confront her about skipping his stand-up show. And
she should have been there. I mean, she can say it's farther than you think, and there's no Uber in Omaha, but she needed to be there. I mean, Ellis has a great point. One of your son's best friends is doing stand-up comedy in the area. That's something that you can never say, that one of your son's friends is doing that particular thing. She needed to be there. No offense, Brett.
Man, you're being hard on Brett's mom.
Well, it's like if someone went to Kentucky, like, I mean, you went to Ellis's show when he was in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's like 5 hours away from you.
Cincinnati's like an hour and a half from me. The Nashville trip was 3 hours.
It's three. Well, the same difference. 3 hours from Cincinnati, 3 hours to Nashville. You went out of your way to see a guy that you don't even know. This is one of your son's best friends. There's no excuse. No excuse. But this segment inspired Ken's quote. I spend most of my time alone in my room, contemplating why I left my hometown. For whatever reason, that quote killed me. I can't remember the context exactly, but whatever it was great.
I don't think Ken made this up. I'm not saying that he did, but it was the first time that I had ever heard someone say this. When referring to the news, Ken didn't get around to doing the news as he traditionally does, but he said that no person is busy, really. It's just where you fall on the priority list. I thought that was pretty funny to hear for the first time, especially from Ken. Yes, Ken did not have the news, but...
Is this a byproduct of one day earlier in the week that we're shooting the show?
Probably. It probably is.
One less day.
This segment is probably what was put in place due to the fact that they were expecting Flick Pick John to be on the show.
Oh, yeah.
They ended up doing this new segment where they brought out the wheel, and they from that wheel they had news stories. And my point is that this felt like it went on too long compared to what traditionally it would be, just be that quick bit that Ken does. But I think that this was to fill time due to the fact that Flick Pick could not make it to the studio this week. But there was a great JTE joke about
Future Gun.
The future. Oh God, yeah. There were quite a bit of those.
Future Gun is a new term that we'll be using for the rest of our lives. Backing up real quick, during the break, we got Kristian's Luke Skywalker rant, which is proof of why our golden boy needed a sabbatical because of his blood pressure. So add years and years of those rants. This is why Kristian Harloff is now on break for a little bit, because of rants like that. So great reminder. It's going to be kind of sad when we see him during the breaks and not on the show for the next 5 to 12 months. Again, I think it's going to be November or December in which he comes back. So it's going to be weird seeing him during the breaks, especially once we get deeper into his absence. But
our podcast even made an appearance, and it hasn't in a while during Copster's break.
I don't think we've ever had a first break plug before. So maybe Kristian should take sabbaticals more often, that we might get an actual plug on the show.
Yeah, Ellis so far has become a better ambassador to the show than Kristian Harloff ever was. Totally joking. Just kidding. Don't get your panties in a wad. Do you have...
I'm sure Cobster was fighting Ellis at every turn, but I'll take it. I'll certainly take it.
You're not bringing this up, and you haven't brought it up since the show aired, but I feel like you have an opinion on the fact that you did not get a word in on the clip that they suggested during the break. Am I right or wrong? I'll give you this moment to talk about it.
Well, wait a second. It's happened before where I've had the break clip all to myself and you haven't gotten in a word. So it's not a big deal to me. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't bother me because it's happened vice versa before. So as long as the show gets plugged, I don't care. I mean, everybody knows.
What a healthy attitude.
Exactly. I mean, everybody knows who the star of this show is. So it's not like I can't sacrifice a plug here and there for you.
Yeah, the star of the show is Makuga.
Exactly. There was a moment where Perry said, I think she should be on that show every single week. And then I noted in my notes, does Perry not watch the show? I did not note what she was referencing, but something pointed out the fact that Perry probably doesn't watch the show.
I don't think anybody watches the Schmoes Know live show if they're not on it, with the exception of Mark and Kristian.
We've established that before, but I can't remember what she was referencing when it said, I think she should be on that show every single week.
I'm not sure
I'm gonna kick myself for not noting this later. But
it's okay. We have a housekeeping segment next week, Brian.
I know, but still. Did you think it was weird how Ellis referenced Josh Tapia from JTE Movie Thinks during his intro? It was bizarre. Because he's never given a proper intro, especially with his YouTube channel. And yet he was given a Josh Tapia intro with his YouTube channel, which is just very bizarre.
It is kind of bizarre.
And I love how Ellis mocked JTE for saying how the move to Wednesday benefits him so much. He said, I'm glad the move benefits you, JTE, in a way that was making JTE sound super selfish and whatnot. But this is a good thing, though. I like that JTE is going to be able to get to the show on Wednesdays, as Thursdays proved to be a challenge.
Definitely. What do you think about Perry wanting to go into the future to meet AI? Because that doesn't sound like something a diehard movie fan would ever want to do or say, given the fact that we've seen so many destructive stories of not only time travel, but AI. So she might be a little bit twisted.
Yeah, that was an interesting question, though. If you could time travel, where would you time travel to, or who would you want to meet? So the news wheel has potential. I just don't think it has potential as far as reporting movie news. I think if it's like cast related questions, personal related questions, I think it could be more interesting than doing stuff that's in movie news. Because by then we've got a handle on movie news to that point. What do you think?
In no way is it better than Ken Knapsack's segment. So I only find it acceptable when Ken is not there to do the news portion. So.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they want to use the wheel in the future for a different segment, I would be curious to have random questions for the cast to answer, such as if you could time travel, blah, blah, blah. So some people will argue about the fact that, no, they should just be talking movies only. But the point is, if they were to use the wheel again, that's what I would use it for.
I love that Ellis was quick. I'm sorry, before you get to that. Ellis was very quick to bring up that we would notice that they left the opponent's choice portion on the wheel. So that was pretty funny. And
yeah, Kristian wrote a great script for him to follow as far as pointing out what we might notice. I'm surprised he didn't point out how we have great chemistry.
Yeah, that's the one thing that he forgot. And he forgot to mention our friendaversary. How dare him.
Well, that's a big loss. But Candace Thompson, again, I said last week, Ellis is going to have people from his stand-up world come on the show a lot more, like he did with John Caparulo. Am I saying that right? Caparulo?
Yes, you
Caparulo?
are. Yeah.
Fuck. Glickman, he's had several people from his stand-up life. This is no different. It's going to continue, just like Kristian used to have people from his producing, development world on the show. He didn't do it in phase 6 or last year all that often, and it's a bummer that we're not going to see those guys on the show this year since Kristian won't be on the show this year, but at least we get to meet more people from Ellis's life.
Was the
by
movie
far,
roast...
By far. Hold on, let me make one point before the roast. My favorite part of Candace Thompson was how she screwed up all the nicknames, whether it was calling RB3 R2D2 or calling JTE JT. She had no clue what these people's names were, and yet everybody kept laughing at the fact that she didn't know, and yet she had no idea that they were laughing at the fact that she didn't know. So by far, R2D2 is my favorite moment from Candace.
Was the movie roast portion of the show a success to you? Did you enjoy it?
I think it's something, like I said last week, it has potential as long as it's refined. I think as a first go around, it had its moments. I thought RB3's the most color from La La Land was Emma Stone's yellow dress. I mean, I'm saying that slightly off, but that was a hilarious joke. I thought it was the joke of the night. So the segment has potential. It's just going to take refinement like most things. So I take it you did not like it?
Quite the opposite, actually. I think that... I love the idea. I'm a huge fan of roasts. I watch pretty much every single one that Comedy Central puts out. My 21st birthday was a roast,
I love roast too.
Of myself. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of it. RB3 did a great job. I agree that he is the winner.
Who do you think won?
RB3 easily, but Makuga, people were talking about his style or whatever. If you watch those roasts, there are plenty of people on those daises that come out and interpret it differently. And like, if you've seen Andy Samberg, he did something very different. Gilbert Gottfried did something really unique when he stepped up there. I don't have a problem with what Makuga did at all. It does come down to the fact that he was just less funny, but I don't think his approach by any means was poor. So, but RB3 was the winner.
The lack of a roast delivery, that seemed kind of like a strange reasoning. I mean, Makuga put the accent into it, but as far as RB3, he had the best joke of the night, the Emma Stone yellow dress. So, but Candace calling him R2D2 was hilarious as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I would like to see it again. The problem is with Makuga, he had to do a movie where it spoils it for people who haven't seen it. So hopefully they can do it for films to where it's not going to be a new film that will risk such spoilers like Makuga.
I'm disappointed that Ellis didn't know the Beaches, Bette Midler, Wind Beneath My Wings fact. He forgot the Seinfeld episode that has Bette Midler on it, and they address that song is from the movie. Kramer sings it. I think that just slipped his mind.
Were you surprised by Perry choosing Jupiter Ascending as her favorite fun, dumb action movie?
Yes, because that movie is absolute shit, and I have never been more angry sitting in a theater. I got up, took a break from the film in the theater, watched American Sniper in the neighboring theater, and then came back. I left my friend Phil in the theater alone for a few minutes because I was so mad at how shitty that movie was.
Off the top of your head, what would be your favorite fun, dumb action movie? Ken picked a great one in Demolition Man. That was a movie I loved as a 10-year-old kid.
The Nickelodeon original Clock Stoppers, starring French Stewart.
As a fun, dumb action movie?
No, I just wanted a ridiculous reaction from you.
Okay, well, you got one. I'm like, wait, what? No, really. Mine would be, beside Demolition Man, beside Commando, mine would have been Face Off. I thought for sure Face Off
is a good one. I was actually thinking about that movie today. I really do like that answer. I'm not going to keep it, though, because I don't want to cheapen your question.
I could eat a peach for hours.
I would probably go with something like... I might just stick with Point Break. I have a lot...
Wait, don't call that dumb. Don't call that movie dumb.
It's dumb.
Catherine Bigelow. What's dumb about it?
I'm not saying it's not well made. I mean, there are plenty of silly things about Point Break.
No. It may be humorous in hindsight, given how dated it is, but at the time, I wouldn't compare it to Demolition Man, which is so super dumb, as is Face Off, as is Con Air. I mean, a guy's undercover with a bunch of bank robbers.
It's not a B movie like Predator is, but still.
I cannot put Point Break in the same sentence as Demolition Man or Jupiter Ascending or Con Air. There's a bit more weight to Point Break. I mean, it's certainly an action movie that they don't make anymore, but I can't demean that movie. I just can't. Oh, by the way, they are remaking White Men Can't Jump. I've been talking about how I have been setting these trends the last few months that people jump onto. I have made 2 White Men Can't Jump references in the past couple months. Foods that begin with the letter Q. I said it to Makuga. I said it before that as well. Now they are remaking White Men Can't Jump. Clearly, someone was listening to me and the things that I've been putting out there. I mean, what are the odds of that happening?
Okay.
I pulled these random references out and they're being remade. I talk about Golden Throats and all of a sudden Golden Throat is a thing. I mean, what's next? JTE, I said he's got a belt in his future. Now he beats Top 10 and Bibbiani. I mean, what is next? All right, what's next?
Okay, let's. We touched on Cody Miller at the beginning of the show. Do you want to go ahead and just finish off with Schmoes Choice?
Did you really believe at first that he was actually coming out? Did you think someone else was going to come out instead of Cody Miller? Because I didn't think that they were being serious for a minute. I'm like, there's no way Cody's there from Indiana, but he was.
I think they posted on social media that he.
You saw it before.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure that I did.
By the way, Cody Miller and JT, the smack talk between them continues to be top notch because Cody said to JTE, well, if there's ever a rematch between us, because JT was saying how his match was fixed, which some people truly believe, he says, well, if there's ever a rematch between us, and there definitely will be, he's going to need his future gun to bring me down. So Cody Miller once again leaves JTE speechless, just like he did during their first Smack Talk session before their first match a few months ago. So Cody Miller brings it with JTE involved.
You know what Cody Miller does?
What's that?
He brings out the jealousy in me.
Why is that?
What a man. My God. To accomplish what he has accomplished at his age. Tremendous. My goodness. You know, I could have been him if I worked harder.
How does he top this? I mean, how does life get better for him at this age? He's so young. I mean, what is there to look forward to at his age? Playing with guys like us on YouTube? I mean, is that his future? I mean, that's what it seems like. Winning know. Schmoedowns. Is that what he has to look forward to?
I don't know what swimmers do regardless, so.
He peaked too early, I think.
Don't say that. Come on.
Well, I'm just saying, like so many people say about like kids that are extremely rich and sitting courtside at 12 years old. I mean, what do they have to look forward to? Obviously, he's earned everything that he's got, but I mean, how much better can the guy's life get? I mean, I'm not taking away from what he's earned, but
he can go back to his hometown and work at a car dealership like some of our UK players do.
Like Ed O'Bannon and the UCLA Bruins until he sued EA Sports for using his likeness without his permission. Now he's probably no longer selling Toyota Camrys, but Cody Miller, he probably still has, 2 more Olympics left in him? So he's still got a big career ahead of him, but yeah, it's going to be awesome that he's going to be a friend of Schmoeville for the next however many years, as long as Mark and Kristian stay there, but... Schmoes Choice. Should we get to that?
Yeah, let's do it.
I already mentioned that Candace was terrible with names, but did you like her appearance overall?
Oh, yeah. I thought she was great. I'd love to see her come back, for sure.
Have you watched her show, Roast Battle?
I have not, but I am going to get on it immediately.
I'm a fan of Roast as well, the celebrity ones, but you'd think that we would both watch Jeff Ross's Roast Battle show.
I'm a little embarrassed that I was talking about how much I love Roast, but I have not seen this show yet, and I have no problem being honest about it. So,
but after she called RB3 R2D2, she went back to it later and she called him RB's 3.
Great.
And she tried to point out how it was like this clever thing, and she tried to get everybody else on board with the fact that she she called them RB3. No one understood what the hell she was talking about. But yeah, nicknames aside, I would love to see her back. Enough talk. Footloose or Dirty Dancing?
Footloose.
Can you not act like I put a future gun to your head?
What are you talking about?
That was a great quote from Ellis.
Oh, you scared me. I thought you were getting mad at me. I was like,
yeah, Ellis said that to JCE when he failed to sell the segment at Schmoes Choice. Right. He wasn't very excited about it because Cody Miller just put him in his place again by saying how he was going to use a future gun to bring him down. Bad Boys 2 versus The Raid 2.
The Raid 2.
You know what? I've never seen The Raid 2. I've never seen The Raid either.
It's hella good.
I've tried to watch them both. I fall asleep every time because I'm forced to read subtitles, which for some reason, reading subtitles, unless it's the middle of the day, put me to sleep.
I watch every single episode of Game of Thrones with subtitles because it helps me comprehend the names and locales even more. For this show,
I'm the same way.
For this show,
I'm the same
it
way.
enhances it, and I'm probably going to stick with that when I watch Peaky Blinders next. So.
You'll need it for Peaky Blinders just because they speak in such a slang for the area. But I love subtitles because it forces me to focus more on the dialogue. You pick up things that normally you would miss if you were just listening. Sure. But with the Raid, you have to really focus because they're not speaking your language on top of it. So having to, when I watch these at 11 o'clock at night, it puts me to sleep for whatever reason. So I can't really weigh in on this. But for now, Bad Boys 2. This is the challenging one. This was the biggest, toughest question. It's kind of easy for me, but I love both films. Hell or High Water or No Country for Old Men?
No Country for Old Men.
I agree. Coen Brothers Best Picture. Anton Chigurh, one of the greatest villains ever. Josh Brolin, I love one of his best films. Cinematography by Roger Deakins, second to none.
Not to sound like Campia, but I think Hell or High Water is slightly over talked about.
Why do you keep on agreeing with Campia's movie taste? You were down on Arrival.
He doesn't think
loved
that. That's
Hacksaw
not his
Ridge.
opinion. I don't think he's ever said that about Hell or High Water. I was saying that I sound like him because I'm talking about a movie that everyone loves. The movie's great.
He put it in his top 3. He put it in his top 3 or 4, though.
Right. I think the movie's great. There's nothing wrong with it at all, but it just didn't really feel like it was. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. It's good, but
No Country set the bar for Hell or High Water to try and match. Like, there would be no Hell or High Water without No Country for Old Men first, I think. I think a studio executive said, oh, this could be like our No Country for Old Men. I feel like this movie was made because of No Country's success.
Also, I can agree with Campia.
But you didn't like Arrival either. Like, people don't realize
yes,
you did not like Arrival. No, you didn't really like it.
It's in my top 5 movies of the year.
I saw your review.
So?
What was your number 1 film?
I haven't decided yet.
Yep. No, it's Hacksaw Ridge, just like Campia.
No, it is not.
I just watched.
You're nuts.
You think is Arrival ahead of Hacksaw Ridge? That's all I care about.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's all I care about.
Okay.
Then. A great quote from Candace Thompson about Hell or High Water versus No Country. She said, "I have a thing for guys with dead eyes. That's why she picked No Country for Old Men."
Right.
So great quote there, and a great quote from Ellis. They were talking about doing the Dirty Dancing lift-up thing, and Ellis went on this little tangent without ruining Cody's athletic career in reference to someone photoshopping JTE doing the lift to Cody, or them actually doing it. So Ellis went on this little riff about not ruining his athletic career. You have to listen to it to truly get what the joke was, but it was great nonetheless.
Speaking of Cody, I want
photo shoots and stuff.
I want to put this in your head and see if you agree with me. I saw the latest Logan trailer, and for whatever reason, it was just this gut reaction. When I saw X-23 up close a little bit, I saw Cody Hall's face in that little girl.
Cody Hall or Cody Miller? We've been confused about which Cody we're talking about all episode.
Cody Hall.
Wow.
For some reason, I think he looks like X-23.
Wow.
And I hope, if people might disagree with me and think I'm an idiot, but I hope that if this does anything, people are going to watch Logan from here on out thinking of Cody Hahn.
That I'm gonna look for that now, but I love how people like needed this trailer to be better than the first one. All this trailer
No.
decent.
We'll talk about this after the show.
I'm just annoyed that people had to set this impossible bar for it.
There's no real way to transition, but that's the end of the after show, ladies and gentlemen.
4 hours later.
Yeah.
Literally 4 hours later.
Let's tell the good people in Schmoeville where they can find us when we're not doing the show, Brian Davids.
Let's see if I can still remember where they can find me. At BDF331 on Twitter, at filmschlubspodcast.com.
You can find me on Twitter at WhatUpSnell, and I'm also doing work on the Sight and Sound podcast and YouTube channel, and there's links all over the place if you follow me on Twitter. And we'll see you next week. Until then, I'm Ryan Snelling.
And I'm Brian Davids.
Peace out, Mother F's. I'm only saying that because Kristian wasn't on the show.
Like it.
You and me come from different worlds. You like to laugh at me when I look at other girls. Sometimes you're crazy and you wonder why I'm such a baby, 'cause the dolphins make me cry. Well, there's nothing I can do. I only wanna be with you